Stop looking at the summit. The summit is a lie. We have been conditioned to believe that the height of a mountain is the only metric that matters, that the number of meters above sea level dictates the challenge. That is wrong. A gentle slope can take you to 20,000 feet if you have enough oxygen and enough patience. That is hiking. We are not here for hiking. We are here for the walls. We are here for the geological anomalies that refuse to crumble, the faces of granite that rose from the crust and decided to stand perpendicular to the horizon. You think you know what a mountain looks like? You are picturing a pyramid. You are picturing a base that supports a peak. But there are places on this planet where the laws of structural integrity seem to vanish, where the earth doesn't slope up, it shoots up. These are not slopes you can walk on. These are not inclines you can scramble up. These are vertical nightmares where gravity is absolute and the ground is a distant memory. This is not about how high you can get. It's about how hard the world tries to throw you off. You're watching Unclimbed Earth, where the map turns vertical. If you crave a view from the absolute edge of the world, subscribing ensures you never miss a descent into the unknown. To understand the true terror of verticality, you have to strip away the romance of the alpine meadow and the snowy ridge. You have to look at the geometry of the void. In the world of extreme geography, there is a distinction between elevation and relief, but the most crucial metric is the drop. A vertical drop. When we talk about the most vertical mountains on Earth, we are talking about faces so steep that snow cannot stick to them. We are talking about rock so sheer that a stone dropped from the top will not strike the face once before it shatters on the talus thousands of feet below. This is a realm where the horizontal plane ceases to exist. There is no place to pitch a tent. There is no place to sit. There is only the wall, the sky, and the air beneath your feet. The journey begins in the most hostile isolation imaginable, deep within the Arctic Circle on Baffin Island, Canada. This is the home of Mount Thor. If you were to stand at the base of Thor, you would not just be looking up, you would be looking back. Mount Thor holds the record for the greatest purely vertical drop on Earth, but even that description fails to capture the reality of its architecture. It is not just vertical, it is overhanging. The face stands at an average angle of 105 degrees. It leans out over the valley floor, a brooding sentinel of granite that defies physics. The drop is 1,250 meters. To put that into perspective, you could stack 3 Empire State Buildings on top of each other, and they would still fit comfortably under the overhang of Mount Thor. Standing beneath it creates a primal cognitive dissonance. Your brain screams that rock shouldn't do that. Stone is heavy, it should settle. But Thor looms like a frozen wave of gray stone about to crash. Yet it has held that position for millennia. The local Inuit populations have known of these peaks for generations, treating the region with a respect born of survival. But to the geological eye, Thor is a masterpiece of glacial erosion. During the last ice age, massive sheets of ice didn't just cover this land. They scoured it. They acted like colossal chisels, slicing through the weaker rock and leaving only the hardest, most resilient granite cores behind. What remains is a valley of gods, a place where the walls are so steep they create their own weather systems, trapping wind and cold in a perpetual cycle of freezing shadows. The experience of this verticality changes the human perception of time. When you look at a slope, you see a path, a progression of steps. When you look at a vertical wall like Thor, you see an instant. The drop is immediate. There is no transition zone. This creates a specific kind of vertigo that has nothing to do with balance and everything to do with scale. You are insignificant against a kilometer of vertical rock. The silence here is heavy, broken only by the sound of rockfall, the mountain shedding its skin in lethal bursts. This is the definition of unclimbed in the spiritual sense. Even if humans have technically ascended it, the mountain remains unconquered. It permits visitors only briefly, and always with the threat of annihilation. But Baffin Island is just the beginning of this vertical obsession. If we shift our gaze from the Arctic to the high-altitude ranges of Pakistan, the geology shifts from the massive to the architectural. Enter the Karakoram. This range is often called the throne room of the mountain gods. And for good reason. While the Himalayas are massive and sprawling, the Karakoram is spiky, jagged, and aggressively vertical. Here we find the Trango Towers. These are not mountains in the traditional sense. They are spires. They are obelisks of granite that pierce the jet stream. The Great Trango Tower is the embodiment of the vertical limit. Its east face is the world's greatest nearly vertical drop. Note the distinction. Thor is the greatest vertical drop, but Trango is the greatest nearly vertical drop at high altitude. We are talking about a wall that rises over 1,300 meters from the glacier. But unlike the dark, brooding overhang of Thor, Trango is golden, sun-bleached granite rising into the thin, blue air of 6,000 meters. It looks less like a geological formation and more like a cathedral built by giants. The scale here is so deceptive that climbers on the wall are invisible to the naked eye from the base. They are microscopic specks navigating a sea of stone. The formation of these towers demands a specific set of violent geological circumstances. You need tectonic uplift pushing the land up at a rapid pace, and you need aggressive erosion cutting it down simultaneously. It is a race between the earth pushing up and the elements tearing down. The Trango Towers are the survivors of this war. They are the strongest cores of the Pluton, the rock that refused to yield to the grinding glaciers of the Baltoro. This selection process leaves behind walls that are terrifyingly smooth. There are sections of the Trango Towers that are featureless, devoid of cracks or fissures, just sheets of glass-smooth granite stretching up for hundreds of meters. To be in the presence of these walls is to understand that the Earth is not designed for us. We are accustomed to the horizontal. We build our cities on plains, we drive on flat roads, we sleep in flatbeds. We are creatures of the horizon. These mountains destroy that comfort. They force you to crane your neck back until it hurts, forcing you to acknowledge a dimension we usually ignore. The most vertical is not just a category of geography. It is a challenge to biology. It triggers the ancient alarm systems in the mammalian brain that warn of falling. Even looking at footage of these places triggers a phantom sensation in the soles of the feet, a tingling reminder that we are soft, heavy creatures living in a world of hard, high edges. As we move deeper into this investigation, we have to leave the solid granite behind and look at something even more unstable. We have to look at what happens when verticality meets vegetation, when the sheer walls are not just bare rock, but living ecosystems clinging to a 90-degree precipice. Because there are places on Earth where the jungle doesn't stop at the mountain base, it climbs the wall with you. This introduces a new layer of danger, the unknown variable of what lies beneath the green. But before we arrive there, we must understand the physics of the fall. Why do these cliffs exist? Why hasn't gravity pulled them down yet? The answer lies in the molecular bond of the stone itself. Granite is the only material stubborn enough to defy gravity on this scale, but do not let that fool you into thinking these structures are permanent. That is a lie we tell ourselves to feel safe. In reality, every vertical face on this planet is a snapshot of a collapse in progress. You are looking at a slow-motion explosion that takes 10 million years to resolve, and we are just brief, insignificant witnesses to the debris field. The molecular bond of the stone is strong, yes, but the forces trying to tear it apart are relentless. Frost wedging, where water seeps into microscopic cracks and expands as it freezes, acts like millions of tiny hydraulic jacks prying the mountain apart from the inside. These walls are not standing still. They are fighting a losing war against thermodynamics. This geological violence is what creates the masterpieces of the vertical world. When we look for the absolute limit of verticality, our eyes must turn to the Karakoram Range in Pakistan. Here, the glaciers are not just rivers of ice. They are earth-moving machines that have sheared away the mountain flanks, leaving behind the Trango Towers. These are not mountains in the traditional sense of slopes and peaks. They are monoliths, spires of rock that shoot 6,000 meters into the thin air, with faces that are virtually featureless. The Great Trango Tower boasts the world's greatest nearly vertical drop. Imagine a sheer wall of granite rising more than 1,300 meters straight up. To put that in perspective, you could stack 3 Empire State Buildings on top of one another, and you would still be staring up at the summit from the base. The scale here destroys human perception. When you stand at the foot of the Trango Group, there is no horizon. There is only the gray wall and the sky. Climbers who have attempted these faces report a phenomenon known as rapture of the deep, usually associated with diving, but here applied to the abyss of air. The brain struggles to calculate distance when there are no reference points, no trees, no roads, no buildings, just an endless, vertical desert of stone. It creates a vertigo that pulls you outward, a hypnotic suggestion that the ground is not down, but behind you. This is where the geography of the vertical becomes a study in isolation. These environments are hostile to life in a way that horizontal landscapes are not. On a flat plain, or even a steep slope, snow can accumulate, soil can form, and moss can grow. On a true vertical face, nothing sticks. Gravity cleans the slate instantly. This means there is no water retention, no shelter from the wind, and nowhere to rest. If you are navigating this terrain, you are an intruder in a zone that explicitly rejects your presence. If seeing these remote, hostile frontiers documented in this level of detail resonates with you, subscribing ensures you don't miss the next expedition into the unknown. We must then cast our gaze to the Canadian Arctic, to Baffin Island, where the rules of verticality are bent even further. Here lies Mount Thor. It is not the highest peak, nor the most famous, but it holds a record that defies logic, the greatest purely vertical drop on Earth. But vertical is actually an understatement. Mount Thor is not 90 degrees. It is 105 degrees. The face overhangs. If you were to drop a stone from the summit, it would not touch the wall. It would fall for 4,101 feet before hitting the glacier below. That is over a kilometer of free fall. A human body falling from that height would reach terminal velocity long before impact, falling for nearly 20 seconds. The existence of Mount Thor is a geological anomaly. The rock here is some of the oldest on the planet, Precambrian granite that has been scoured by the Laurentide ice sheet. The ice carved away the softer surrounding rock, leaving this fin of indestructible stone jutting out like a ship's prow. The overhang creates a permanent shadow at the base, a place where the sun rarely touches, preserving a microclimate of eternal winter. Standing beneath that overhang, looking up, feels like standing beneath a tidal wave of rock frozen in time, threatening to crash down at any moment. And it does crash. Rockfall here is not a pebble bouncing down a slope. It is a bombardment. Because of the overhang, debris falls clear of the wall, landing with explosive force on the glacier, turning the landing zone into a minefield. Shift your focus south to the bottom of the world, where verticality meets velocity. In Patagonia, on the border of Chile and Argentina, stands Cerro Torre. For decades, it was considered the impossible mountain. It is a needle of granite capped with a mushroom of rime ice, rising out of the southern Patagonian ice field. What makes Cerro Torre the definition of vertical hell is not just the angle of the rock, but the wind. The roaring 40s and furious 50s, winds that circle the globe without hitting land, slam directly into this spire. The wind accelerates around the vertical tower like air over an airplane wing, creating a Venturi effect. Speeds regularly exceed 100 miles per hour. This wind plasters moisture onto the rock, freezing instantly into rime ice structures that grow horizontally, defying gravity in their own way. These ice mushrooms are unstable, porous, and heavy. They cling to the vertical granite until their weight becomes too great or the temperature shifts slightly, and then they peel off. Tons of ice, falling thousands of feet, scouring the face clean. To be on the wall when the rime peels is to be in the path of an avalanche that falls through the air rather than sliding down a slope. The verticality of Cerro Torre forces a unique kind of climbing and a unique kind of fear. There are no ledges. For days, climbers must hang in harnesses, sleeping in portal edges, fabric cots suspended over the void. There is no retreat to a flat surface. You live entirely in the vertical dimension. Everything you drop is gone forever. Every mistake is fatal. The psychological strain of never being able to unclip, never being able to stand on your own 2 feet without a tether, wears down the mind faster than the physical exertion wears down the body. This brings us to the paradox of these places. We are drawn to them because they are the antithesis of the human environment. We evolved for the savanna, for the horizontal plane where we can run and hide. The vertical world offers neither flight nor concealment. It offers only exposure. When we look at images of the Trango Towers or Mount Thor, we are seeing the Earth's skeleton exposed, stripped of the flesh of soil and vegetation. It is the planet in its rawest, most architectural form. But there is a hidden variable in these vertical equations that most people overlook. We assume that because these walls are steep, they are solid. We assume that steep implies clean. But the most vertical mountains are often the most deceptive. The very forces that carve them, glaciers and tectonic uplift, have left them under immense internal stress. The rock is essentially a compressed spring. When the weight of the ice is removed by melting glaciers, the rock expands. This process, called isostatic rebound, causes the vertical faces to shed layers like an onion. You might be climbing a wall that looks solid, but it is actually a detached flake, thousands of tons of rock held on by friction and a few square inches of connection points. The verticality hides the fragility. A slope reveals its looseness. Rocks slide and settle. A vertical face hides its weakness until the moment of failure. The silence of these valleys is often broken by the crack of spontaneous exfoliation, the sound of the mountain adjusting its posture, reminding us that the vertical is an unstable state of matter. Gravity always wins eventually. The mountain is just negotiating the terms of its surrender. And yet, there are places even more vertical, even more alien, hidden in the ranges we think we have mapped. Places where the rock is so steep, so smooth, and so hard that it has rejected every attempt at human contact. We have spoken of the giants we know, but the true terror lies in the faces that have no names. The ones tucked away in the labyrinth of the Himalayas or the frozen fjords of Antarctica, where the vertical drop continues below the ice, into the dark water, creating a cliff that spans from the atmosphere to the ocean floor. This isn't just geography. It is a vertical rejection of life itself. You might believe you understand the concept of a cliff, that it is simply where the land ends and the air begins, but the data of these specific faces tells a different story. These aren't just steep slopes. They are geometric anomalies that defy the very logic of erosion, standing as violent interruptions in the atmosphere. When you look at a mountain like Mount Thor on Baffin Island, you are not looking at a climb. You are looking at an overhang that leans out at 105 degrees, a wall that technically falls away from you as you ascend. It is the greatest purely vertical drop on the planet, 1.25 kilometers of sheer granite that would allow a dropped stone to fall for nearly 20 seconds without striking anything but air. Most people cannot comprehend that scale. To stand at the base is to feel the crushing weight of the planet pressing down on your optic nerve. To stand at the top is to stare into a void so absolute it triggers a primal, reptilian panic even in the most seasoned alpinists. And yet, this is exactly where the frontier of human endurance is currently being fought. While the rest of the world looks at Everest and sees a queue of tourists, the true vanguard of exploration is happening here, in the shadows, on faces that offer no summit glory, only the brutal, silent indifference of vertical stone. Consider the Trango Towers in Pakistan. They rise from the Baltoro Glacier like jagged teeth tearing at the sky. The nameless tower, specifically, is a monolith that seems designed by a cruel architect. It is not merely high, it is relentless. There are no ledges. There is no walking. From the moment you leave the glacier, you are existing in a vertical world where gravity is the only constant enemy. Climbers here do not camp. They hang. They deploy portal edges, fabric cots suspended by webbing, thousands of feet above the ice. They sleep dangling over an abyss that could swallow a skyscraper whole. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night in that environment. You unzip the tent door, and there is nothing beneath your boots but a mile of black air. The wind howls through the granite corridors with the sound of a freight train, a constant, roaring reminder that you are a trespasser in a kingdom of stone. This is not sport. This is a siege. You are hauling hundreds of pounds of water and gear up a face that offers no quarter, inching upward on fingertips of friction, trusting your life to a sliver of metal jammed into a crack no wider than a coin. It forces us to ask why we are drawn to these places. Why do we seek out the geography that is most hostile to our biology? Perhaps it is because in the horizontal world, life is cluttered with noise, with ambiguity, with the gray areas of modern existence. But on a vertical face, life is binary. You hold on or you fall. You focus or you die. There is a terrifying clarity in that simplicity. It strips away the ego and leaves only the raw instinct to survive. If documenting these extremes of human capability and geological violence resonates with you, joining our community ensures these stories continue to be told. But the true reward is simply understanding that such places exist at all. Shift your gaze now to Patagonia, to the spire of Cerro Torre. For decades, it was considered an impossible mountain, a needle of granite capped by a fragile, terrifying mushroom of rime ice formed by the relentless Pacific winds. The wind here is not like wind elsewhere. It is a physical blow, capable of ripping a climber from the wall. The rime ice doesn't form in sheets. It grows sideways, creating precarious, overhanging honeycombs that crumble at the touch. To climb Cerro Torre is to wrestle with a mountain that is actively trying to shake you off. It was once called the Scream of Stone, a title that feels less like poetry and more like a warning. The history of these vertical realms is written not in ink, but in obsession. It is written in the controversial bolts of maestry, in the free-soloing madness of those who climb without ropes, and in the quiet, desperate struggle of those who never came back. The walls retain no memory of these struggles. That is the horror and the beauty of the vertical world. You can spend weeks battling up the north face of the Eiger or the sheer prow of El Capitan, pouring every ounce of your soul into the stone. And when you leave, the wind scrubs your chalk from the rock, and the mountain returns to its eternal, stony silence. It does not care that you were there. It does not celebrate your success or mourn your failure. It simply is. And this brings us to the future of vertical exploration. The golden age of mountaineering, the race for the highest summits, is over. We have cataloged the peaks, we have measured the altitudes. But the age of the wall is just beginning. We are now looking for the lines between the lines. We are searching for the faces that have been deemed too smooth, too steep, or too remote. In the frozen ranges of Antarctica, in the deep gorges of the Tian Shan, and in the unmapped valleys of the Karakoram, there are walls that have never felt the touch of a human hand. These are the last great problems. They are the faces that require a new evolution of climber, one who is part gymnast, part engineer, and part monk. They require a mindset that accepts suffering as a baseline. The challenge is no longer just about altitude. It is about sustained difficulty, about spending weeks living on a vertical plane where a single mistake means the end. We are moving toward a style of exploration that values the aesthetic of the line over the height of the peak. We are looking for the perfect, unbroken vertical path, the line that connects the earth to the sky with the purity of a laser beam. As we continue to map these vertical deserts, we find that the earth still holds secrets. It still holds places where the map reads unknown, where the contours bunch together so tightly they form a solid black block. These are the places where the imagination can still run wild, where monsters of rock wait in the mist. The most vertical mountains on Earth are not just geological features. They are monuments to the impossible. They stand as proof that this planet is wilder, harder, and more magnificent than we can fully comprehend. So, when you next look at a skyline, do not just look at the summits. Look at the shadows between them. Look at the sheer faces that catch the last light of the sun. That is where the mystery remains. That is where the silence is loudest. And that is where, if you listen closely, you can hear the call of the void, inviting you to step off the edge of the known world and into the vertical unknown. The ground is flat, but the world is not. The true nature of Earth is found in the ascent.